Hello and welcome to a genteel black hole, the home of my bookish rambles. My name's Ali, and although I didn't watch the Super Bowl halftime show this year, I did read about a bad bunny. So it's time for my January wrap up. January was kind of a weird month for me. Just a lot of disruptive things going on that kind of took a lot of my time and energy. I had a solid 2 weeks of just, constant busyness and annoyance. And the other thing about January is that I started my first course of therapy. It's CBT, and if any of you are currently suppressing a smirk, then I see you. Yeah, so far I think it's going okay, but I think it's gonna take some time to really see what the effects and benefits of this course of therapy are. So, I remain cautiously optimistic. We'll see how it goes. Anyway, let's get on with my reading for the month of January. My first book of the month, first book of the year, in fact, was A Quiet Place by Seicho Matsumoto. This is a Japanese crime thriller from 1971. It was translated into English by Louise Heel Kawai. And it's about a middle-aged government bureaucrat called Tsuneo Asai. And while he's away on a business trip, he receives the shocking and unexpected news that his wife Eiko has died of a heart attack. She had a weak heart, but she'd seemed to be doing okay, so it's something of a shock. And what's even more surprising to Asai is when he goes to visit the place where Eiko died, he realizes it's a place that she never talked about. She'd never mentioned going there, and he can't really see what she was even doing there, why she would have been there. And when he notices that there are some seedy, disreputable couples hotels in the area, or quiet places, he starts to suspect that maybe Eiko was leading some sort of secret double life. Things develop from there, and I won't spoil it any further, but I will say that the cover of this book describes Matsumoto as Japan's Agatha Christie, but I would say that about halfway through this book, things take quite a pivot, and it stops really being a Christie-style investigation and starts to be more of a Patricia Highsmith psychological thriller. I like both of those styles, so I'm not mad about it, but it does feel just slightly misleading to kind of sell Matsumoto as the Japanese Agatha Christie when he's kind of almost doing more of a Japanese Highsmith thing here. I enjoyed it, but not quite as much as the other Matsumoto books I've read. I read Tokyo Express a couple of years ago, and Inspector Imanishi Investigates just over a year ago. And this was the next book that popped up when I was looking for another Matsumoto read. And yeah, as I say, I enjoyed it, but I wouldn't say I loved it. Certainly not as much as the other two Matsumoto books that I've read. I'm still interested in reading some more of his stuff, but I probably won't prioritize it. But yeah, it's worth a read, but I would probably point you in the direction of either of those other two books that I mentioned if you were interested in trying out Matsumoto. Next, we have my first bedtime ebook of the year, and it's Some Tame Gazelle by Barbara Pym. This was my first experience of Barbara Pym. It was recommended to me by Kelly from Books I'm Not Reading, and thank you very much, Kelly, because this was an excellent, excellent recommendation. Some Tame Gazelle was Barbara Pym's debut novel from 1950. It's a kind of a comedy of manners, I suppose. I've seen her described as a 1950s Jane Austen, although I'm not really a huge fan of Jane Austen so far, whereas I really loved this. It follows two spinster sisters in their 50s, Belinda and Harriet. They live together in a small town or village in Oxfordshire, and it's all about their romantic lives or lack thereof. Belinda is the older and more dowdy of the sisters, and she has been harbouring an unrequited crush on the Archdeacon Henry Hoccleve for the last 30 years. Henry is married and therefore very much out of the picture. He's not really eligible. But Belinda continues to kind of carry this torch, and I think she's quite comfortable in that sort of distanced way of admiring and loving without the expectation of anything in return. And similarly, her sister Harriet, she's the kind of the more outgoing and glamorous of the two sisters, and she enjoys doting on a series of younger curates for the church, which again isn't likely to really result in any kind of relationship. And the whole book is kind of about that. The sort of comfort of loving without the danger of being loved. It's beautifully written, beautifully observed. It's very funny, but also, there's this gentle melancholy through the whole thing. It's a brilliant mix for me. I'm a real sucker for sad comedies and funny dramas, and this was very much that. I loved the writing style. There was some brilliant running gags through the whole thing that get funnier each time they crop up again. I can't really say enough good things about this book. It was absolutely fantastic and probably my favourite read of the year so far. I know that's not hard when it's only the second book I read this year, but even up to now, it's still at the top so far. My next read of January was my first buddy read of the year, one of my first buddy reads ever, really, and that was At Swim Two Birds by Flann O'Brien. I read this with Mark from The Book Thing, and I'm really glad that I read it as a buddy read with Mark, because this is, as he described it, aggressively Irish, and it was really helpful to have Mark's Irish perspective on this book, because there was a lot of stuff in this that was far outside my sphere of reference. But I'm getting ahead of myself here. What even is this book? It's bloody weird, is what it is. No. So, last year I read another Flann O'Brien book, The Third Policeman, which I absolutely loved. That was one of the weirdest books I think I've ever read. And this certainly gave it a run for its money. It was written in 1939, or it's published then anyway, and it is... I mean, how do I even describe this? It, well, on the kind of the surface level, it's about, and it's narrated by a student who lives with his uncle in Dublin, his uncle who he hates very much indeed. And when the student is not either sleeping in his room or going out drinking and vomiting all over the place with friends, he is working on a novel. And that's where things get kind of complicated, because the novel that he's working on has multiple layers of fiction in it. So the novel that the student is working on is about an author who is writing multiple stories, and he gradually sort of loses control of his characters, and the characters sort of get into each other's stories and sort of gang up on him. So, yeah, actually following what's going on any level of the fiction can be quite a challenge, especially because some of these layers are quite hard to get a handle on if you're not Irish, or if you haven't been raised with some of these Irish folk tales. The Irish folk hero Finn McCool is a character in this book, and there are long passages that are done in the style of these folk tales of Finn McCool and Mad King Sweeney. So although I kind of got what those bits were doing, I don't think I got as much out of it as Mark did. But, you know, as I say, reading it as a buddy read with Mark was really helpful, because he could kind of give me some background information that I didn't otherwise have. So, yeah, I really enjoyed this. I think while The Third Policeman, I had the sort of eureka moment of like understanding what it was about while I was still reading it. This one kind of took... I had a delayed reaction to it. It took some time, some thought, and some conversation with Mark for me to kind of get to grips with the story and what it meant. I really enjoyed that process, and I think Mark did as well. And in fact, we have decided to make Flann O'Brien buddy reading an annual thing every Flannuary. We're also hoping to record a chat video together at some point. So look out for that on Mark's channel whenever that happens. And speaking of new experiences, my next read for this month was Rocannon's World by Ursula K. Le Guin. This book here actually contains 3 Le Guin novels, her first 3. So Rocannon's World is not only Le Guin's debut novel, but the first in her Hainish cycle of sci-fi stories, which is a kind of loosely connected series. It's not kind of serialized. It doesn't share any characters in common, really, and each book is set on a different planet in the system, or the the League of All Worlds. So it's not a kind of traditional series in that sense, but they are all connected by the setting and by the League of All Worlds. This was a reread for me, but it was my first time doing a group read. This is a group read run by Gareth from Books, Songs and Other Magic. So there's a Voxer group that I am in, along with a whole bunch of other people. I'll tag everyone in the description below. But yeah, it's been really nice having everyone's input as we read through this series of books. So Rocannon's World, it is Le Guin's first book, and as an established Le Guin fan, for me this was most interesting as or in the context of Le Guin's career. As a novel in its own right, I wouldn't say it's great. It's not terrible, but a lot of the qualities that I really admire in Le Guin's writing, she hadn't really developed them yet. It didn't take her long to get there, because Rocannon's World was written or published in 1966, and by 1968 she had published A Wizard of Earthsea, which is one of my favourite books of all time. So she developed pretty quickly. But yeah, I would say Rocannon's World is not an ideal starting place for Le Guin if you want an idea of her kind of greatest qualities as a writer. But yeah, I did really enjoy it just in the context of Le Guin in general, and it's been great having everyone's input as we read through it. You know, a lot of people have shared some really interesting tidbits and extra writings and commentary from Le Guin on this book and future books in the series. So yeah, as a group reading project and a Le Guin appreciation, I really enjoyed it. And I realised that I haven't even really said what the book is about, which probably goes to show you how much more interesting it is in context than as a novel itself. And now, from the start of one series to the end of another, my next bedtime ebook was Moominvalley in November by Tove Jansson. This was the final novel in the Moomins series, and it's quite a low-key and quite melancholy ending to the series. The Moomin family themselves don't even appear in the book. It's all about a group of visitors who come to see the Moomin family at their home and find the home empty, because in the previous book, the Moomin family all moved to a remote lighthouse island. So, yeah, this is quite a kind of, melancholy, I think is the word. Quite a melancholy read. It's very nicely done. I mean, I just, everything I've read from Tove Jansson so far, I have really enjoyed, and yeah, this is no different. I think that this one was probably, the tone of this one was probably inspired somewhat by the death of Jansson's mother. So I think that sort of theme of grief and and loss. Yeah, that's a pretty strong motif throughout the book. There's a little orphan character who has come to Moominvalley with the hope of being adopted by the Moomin family, and yeah, everyone comes to the Moomin household, and kind of they have conflict with each other and sort of have to try and learn how to get on with each other, and kind of come to terms with themselves as well. I really enjoy how, although this is a children's book, Tove Jansson never feels like she's patronizing the reader. I don't think she overly explains anything. She doesn't have to kind of tell you, oh, and because this happened, that's why the Philly Jonk was feeling like this. She kind of trusts you to get it. Like near the start of the book, the Philly Jonk has a near death experience, and through most of the rest of the book, she's struggling with anxiety. And the near death experience she had was an accident while she was cleaning, which causes her to not want to clean anymore. And she kind of trusts you to put those pieces together yourself, which I really appreciate. And I think, an alert child reader will pick up on that and will appreciate not being condescended by having it explained overly. So yeah, I really enjoy that about the Moomins books in general. Yeah, it's quite a low key ending to the series, but yeah, it's a lovely book, really. And I still have one Moomin book left to read because I still haven't read the very first one, so I plan to circle back and read that fairly soon. And because I loved Some Tame Gazelle so much, I ended up picking up another Barbara Pym book straight away. Her second book, in fact, Excellent Women. I still really enjoyed this one, but I think maybe I would have enjoyed it more if I'd waited longer to read it. I think maybe I sort of overdosed a bit on Barbara Pym, and I should have let myself wait a little bit longer until I was missing her a bit more. So I kind of don't have a lot to say about this one. It's really good. I just probably should have waited longer to read it. But I think that if I reread it in a while, I'm probably going to get more out of it that way. So, yeah, otherwise, not a lot to say about this one. So we come to my last book in January, and that was Watership Down by Richard Adams. This was my first time reading Adams, and this is a book that I've been aware of for a long time. I'm sure I saw not the whole of the animated film, but certainly bits of it when I was a kid. I probably couldn't have coped with watching all of it because, blimey. But yeah, for some reason, it took me a long time to get around to reading this. And I hadn't realised that it's actually set quite close to where I live. I mean, I live on, like, downland. So, yeah, turns out Watership Down is a place, and it's not far from me. I've not been there, but yeah, I could easily get there. Anyway, this is an epic adventure and a bit of a war novel about rabbits. So there is a young sort of runt of the litter called Fiver who has the gift of foresight. And when a mysterious man-made object, a signpost, appears in a nearby field, he foresees disaster. But he can't persuade the chief rabbit to evacuate the warren. So, along with Fiver's older brother Hazel and a handful of people that they have managed to persuade to join them, they set off on a perilous quest to try and find a new home on Watership Down. And along the way, they pass some natural hazards, some enemies, and a rather terrifying rabbit, a sort of despotic, dictatorial rabbit called General Woundwort. Yeah, this is a really interesting book. It's a very immersive read. The rabbits have their own kind of language, Lapine. So there's all of these kind of very specific rabbit words dotted throughout the book, which once they've been explained once, you kind of have to add them to your vocabulary. So you just have to, you start to take it for granted. You start to learn that language almost. Start to learn that, when they say silflay, they mean going out to graze on the grass, that sort of thing. And yeah, it has a very sort of mythological tone to it. The rabbits kind of buoy their spirits by telling stories of this legendary trickster rabbit, Elaraira, and their own adventures kind of take on a similarly mythical and mythological scope. Yeah, I can't really say anything bad about this book. There's obviously some very upsetting scenes involving animals in danger and injured. So if you're squeamish about that, then I would steer well clear of this book, because there is a particular scene where one of the rabbits gets caught in a snare, which, that I read those few paragraphs through tears, because that was a lot. And actually, this book is a lot in general, because it's a lot thicker, it's a lot longer than I was expecting it to be. So although I thought it was fantastic, by the end of it, I was kind of ready for it to be over. But yeah, that's, I think, more of a me thing. I can't really fault it in terms of writing style, storytelling, characterization. It's got a lot going for it. So although I really liked it, something about it just didn't quite make me love it. But having said that, I did think it was really excellent. So I would definitely recommend it, as long as you're not too squeamish. So that's everything that I read in January. I'm kind of running out of energy now, so I'm not going to bother talking about films or music, but if you want to read reviews of the films I watched in January, those are all on my blog, genteelblackhole.com, along with reviews of all of the books I've just talked about. So if you'd rather read more concise and carefully worded reviews instead of my rambly nonsense here, yeah, that's all there as well. Anyway, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. If you've read any of these books, what did you think of them? Are there any that you haven't read but they sound tempting to you? Or what have you been reading recently that you would recommend? Or whatever else is on your mind, I'm always happy to hear from you. Anyway, I hope you're having a lovely day, and I will see you when I see you.